Welcome, folks, to this very special episode of AASCENTV, Life on the Autism Spectrum. I am your co-host, Jennifer Brooks.
And I'm Will Burnick.
And this special episode will focus on the sensitive issue of autism and suicide. Sarah Eagle is an autistic psychosocial specialist based in Australia, working on a national charter for suicide prevention for the Australian autistic community. First, tell us about your shirt.
Gladly. Today I'm wearing my Scott Wiener shirt because I am gonna be marching. Tomorrow's the San Francisco Pride Parade. And I will be marching that parade tomorrow for Scott Wiener.
Sarah, we see that you're wearing a special shirt. Would you like to tell us about it?
I would. Yes. So this is a t-shirt in memory of my brother, and it kind of led to my own diagnosis of autism. My brother died 25 years ago. In 2001, he went missing during a psychotic episode in the Australian bush and was never found. And then I did a lot of long distance walking and a lot of research, and this is what's led to my current work now. So I thought I'd wear this for this special occasion. I haven't worn it since 2011, but I found it for today.
Well, we're so sorry that your family had to experience that tragedy. And this is a t-shirt from my alma mater, UC Santa Cruz. This is in memory of sociology professor Lionel Cantu, who died in 2002, and in memory of Chancellor Denise Denton, who died in 2006. I have long believed Denise had unidentified autism, and this may have contributed. This summer of 2026 marks the 20th anniversary of Denise's death, and I dedicate this episode to her. If you are in the US and struggling in any way, please call or text 988 to reach the Crisis Lifeline. We now welcome Sarah Eagle to our show. Will, would you like to ask Sarah the first question?
I'd be glad to. How did you become interested in autism?
Great start, William. I was diagnosed myself with autism about 6 or 7 years ago after experiencing a lot of autistic burnout. I didn't know it was autism. I've got 2 cats here, that's why I'm patting. So I was experiencing a lot of suicidal ideation from regular bouts of autistic burnout. And so I was unable to work in a mainstream environment. And then when I got my diagnosis, it made sense to me. I started to understand, why is my brain so different, and why is life really difficult for me in certain areas. And I went down, it became my special interest to understand my own brain, develop my own self-literacy, understanding what does my brain do, how does it work, and how can I be sustainable. So since my own diagnosis, I'm no longer experiencing autistic burnout to that extent, and the suicidal ideation has really lowered, which I'm really grateful for.
Tell us about Joy Diving Australia.
This is because I couldn't work in the mainstream anymore. I was a forensic clinician working with lots of different people, but I couldn't do it anymore. And I decided I needed to work on my own brain, and discovered that scuba diving actually helps calm my nervous system, the sensory experience of being in the water, and the slowing down my breathing. And so I got really found a lot of joy from scuba diving. And so then I decided I needed to create my own business to support my brain type. And so I created Joy Diving Australia. And it's not about scuba diving. It's actually about supporting autistic people to find what brings us joy, so that we can do more of it and reduce thinking and bring ourselves happiness and meaningful living.
Tell us about the national charter you are working on.
In Australia, I'm really concerned about, and it's probably in America too, the high rates of ideation, and we are at a higher risk of that, and my own experience. And I've spent about 25 years developing a belonging model in memory of my brother Ben. Both Ben and I weren't really welcome in our family because we were different. And so that first-hand experience of being different within our family unit and the impact on both of us has been very tragic. And so I started a PhD, but I couldn't finish it, and was looking at why are people who are different, why do we have a high suicide rate? And to me, people say through the medical model with autism, we have deficits in our brain, and this is what causes thinking. In my view, I think the deficits are in everybody's relational skills. So neurotypical people, every brain struggles with communicating with each other. And the deficits are in having rupture and repair conversations with each other. And so the National Prevention Charter that I'm developing with others aims to protect autistic people, not by saying we are the problem, we need to be fixed, but by teaching all Australians that we all need to learn how to communicate with each other, that we all deserve to belong, and the deficit is not in our brain type, it's in our in our relational skills as a society. And so with that, it's led by autistic people. The charter's led by autistic people, and it's a peer, like having regular, it comes with a framework of safety, prioritizing so that none of us are disposable when we have learned to have hard conversations when there's differences. So that particularly around topics to do with oppressive systems like racism or any transphobic conversations. How do we have hard conversations and nobody is at risk of in that? So it's skill development for all brains to have conversations where nobody's disposable. Does that make sense? I'm happy to answer questions if that is not clear.
Why do you think the rates for autistic people are so high? And what can be done by institutions like schools and workplaces and the medical system to bring them down?
Yeah, I think I'm deeply passionate about this. I think the rates are very high because our society doesn't understand difference. And I think because autism has been framed so deeply in the medical model, which is based on deficit, risk, and loss, we have become the problem to be fixed. When the solution, in my view, is that we need to change workplaces, institutions, tertiary providers to be universal design. So at the moment, all workplaces here in Australia and tertiary providers are built and designed for the main neurotypical brain. That doesn't work for us. They need to be redesigned with all brains in mind, autistic brains in mind, through policy, through how everything is delivered, and through how people are educated. Work systems need to factor in how does our brain type work to make it equitable. And I think if the world is designed to fit and welcome our brain types, our nervous systems will feel more safe with fight, flight, fear, and fawn, because we don't have to work, our brains don't have to work as hard to navigate these systems, including shopping centres and any environment. I think our brains have to work exceptionally hard to navigate this world. And I think it's extremely stressful for our brain type, which leads to things like autistic catatonia, burnout, overwhelm. Does that answer your question?
Oh,
What is the nature of psychosocial safety? Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so here in Australia, there's a new legislation in workplaces based on psychosocial safety. which is really exciting. It means, so a lot of my work is about, I do a lot of high risk. If there's likely to be a risk in somebody with experiencing suicidal ideation, my role is to come in and try and repair any damage, any relationships that have ruptured, and keep people safe. So that might be at a conference setting if there's high conflict between opposing speakers, helping them to feel safe to arrive on stage. So psychosocial safety is really about our psychology and social skills, not skills, but the environment. It's
What
about
you
our
said earlier,
psychology and social. Yeah.
what you
Okay.
said earlier, like there should be a workplace or every place system built for every brain. And that's pretty much what you're advocating and putting out
Yes.
there. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And it's not
Yes.
just work designed. I guess that's where the psychosocial comes in. There's the
Mhm.
physical environment, there's the sensory environment that we need to change, but there's also the psychological interaction, the social skills, the relational skills. And I think that should not fall on autistic people to change how we communicate. It's got to be other brains have to meet us and do the work as well, and learn how to accept difference in communication style. You know, a lot of autistic people in the workplace are told they're too blunt or too direct or difficult or too sensitive, whereas I don't see it that way. I think that comes from the medical model, putting this deficit on our brain type, but that's not where the deficit is. Massive misunderstanding, miscommunication between the brains.
Tell us about the autism community in Australia.
I love the autism community in Australia. It's a thriving community. Mostly online on social media is where people connect, but there's a lot of hubs and a lot of great people doing really incredible things across Australia. I do have concerns about it on social media because there's some division, and there can be it can lead to a kind of like a cancel culture, which really makes me concerned. Yeah. So this is where the National Suicide Prevention Charter arose for me personally. Aside from we need to have better communication with people who are not autistic, people within the community also need to be supported to have hard conversations with each other where there's disagreement without collapsing into suicidal thinking, and being able to speak openly without causing harm. So I love the autism community. It is thriving. There's a lot of brilliant brains doing incredible stuff. And unfortunately, people, because we're all social justice driven, people are deeply passionate. It can get a little bit harmful. And so I think it'd be really great if we had a framework and skills and support to help people navigate those hard conversations together and to protect each other, especially on social media. I think a lot of the younger generation use that a lot without anywhere to go here to support if they are accused of something or if they want to raise something with someone else.
Tell us about employment on the autism spectrum in Australia.
Sure. So employment here is mixed for people with autism. A lot of young people that I work with are really frightened of working in mainstream. And so it's very hard to look for work and find work because there's fear. So there's a real reluctance to work because they don't feel it's going to be supportive. But on the other side, because we have new legislation here, all workplaces are mandated now in Australia to prevent psychosocial hazards, which is really exciting, except the issue is, so it's kind of like, do you have WHS there? Work health safety or occupational health and safety in the workplace?
We have something called OSHA,
Ah,
which mainly focuses on hazardous incidents that occur on
right,
the workforce.
Yes, preventing
great.
physical injuries.
Yes.
That's it.
So in Australia, we have had that, but now we've added psychosocial hazards in the last 2 years. And so my role, I think I'm the only one in Australia that's translating those psychosocial hazards specifically to the autistic brain. So most workplaces are doing defining what those hazards are for mainstream brain types. But I'm developing a guide that'll be released very soon that talks about sensory overwhelm, the sensory design of the workplace, how workplaces need to be physically designed, policy, work access, how to access information, how to reach our KPIs through preventing burnout and hazards that we experience, not necessarily the mainstream brain type. And so this is a good thing for autistic Australians, that when workplaces get their head around they actually have to mitigate risk for autistic people in the workplace, that's going to make working really a lot more accessible here.
So, some sociology theory. There was one sociologist named Durkheim. He did a study sometime in the 1800s looking at the different countries in Europe, and he found that the ones that tended to be more collectivist had lower rates, and the ones that tended to be more individualist had higher rates. So, would you say that Australia leans more toward the individualist or the collectivist, and what effect do you think that has on the autism community?
I think Australia is more individualistic, and I think that's really interesting, that study. I think that I tend to agree anecdotally. I think that makes sense to me too, that a collectivist society is more protective. We are predominantly a Western country here, and I don't think it's necessarily a good thing. I do think in Australia, we do have great ways of creating places of belonging, but we work at that. This is something that we bring in as autistic people, creating our own ways of belonging. I would like to see a lot more of that, and the individualistic culture, is not protective. It concerns me.
Yes, it concerns me too, especially since here in America we tend to take individualism to the extreme.
I think in Australia, in a comparison to where you are, we're probably very fortunate.
Yes.
We have NDIS, the National Disability Insurance Scheme, which is really beneficial for a lot of autistic people. Yeah, so people can access support workers and psychology and different assessments, occupational therapy. We are very fortunate in comparison to America, I have to say. My heart breaks for you guys, especially in the last couple of years. Yeah.
Would you say the redesigning of the environment like no autistic individual should have burdens on them? Would you say that genuine belonging and compliance into culture are the highest points?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And removing the view that we are the deficit, that our brains are the deficit. Taking that
Difference.
focus,
Yeah.
the deficit is the design, the physical design.
Yeah.
The deficit is the lack of understanding of different brain types, and the lack of ability to communicate and tolerate different brain types. The deficit does not sit within the autistic brain.
So like replacing deficit with difference, because that's more positive for sure.
This guy named C. Wright Mills wrote a book explaining the difference between personal problems, which are totally the responsibility of the person and the person's family to deal with, versus public issues, which are more the responsibility of society as a collective whole to deal with. So, on that continuum, Sarah, how is autism treated in Australia?
I want to read that. That's right up my alley. We're moving towards it's a public design issue rather than an individual family responsibility. I think that obviously there are families who have whose children there's high support needs. But I think The NDIS scheme, the National Disability Insurance Scheme, the National Disability Insurance Scheme helped take the responsibility off families and helped Australia look at how do we change things in the community to better support. Though I still think that there's a push right now to reduce funding on the NDIS and put the responsibilities back onto parents. So this is a hot topic here currently, and people are very distressed about it because they're wanting to cut the funding. So they've given everybody they've given people funding, and now they want to remove it, which is going to place people at risk of and harm.
Oh, that's awful. Let's hope it never happens. But I mean,
so we haven't got the
yeah.
balance yet, but it is an ongoing debate, I think, and it's a big part of our discourse in society, is where does that responsibility lie? And the government at the moment is trying to push back onto family, and family is at the moment saying this needs to be more of a societal care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and no one would ever say that in America. Like I said before, we are individualist to the extreme, and autism is a problem for the person who has it, the person's family, and yeah, the autistic person is usually the one causing the problems, and they need to change their behavior so they can conform better, and then everything will be just fine.
So I have one last question, originally from Matthew, our editor and producer. Has there been any legislation in the Australian workforce to include work accommodations for those who acquire them?
Yes. So that's part of, So we do have, there's a Disability Discrimination Act and Employment and Human Rights Acts and legislations. So we can request and expect accommodations. And this new psychosocial hazard legislation, it kind of ties into that. It sort of gives us more opportunity to say we need other accommodations.
How do you pay tribute to your brother after he fell to all those years ago?
This is why I do what I do. I'm deeply passionate, as well as my own lived experience of autistic burnout and suicidal ideation. I do whatever I can to create a culture of belonging in workplaces, tertiary and nationally, like the Suicide Prevention Charter for Autistic People. This all comes from my brother and my brother's experience of being exiled for being different, and my own experience of being exiled for being different from our family. So this is I love what I do. It makes my heart sing to support as many people as I can.
Hello, everybody. Today on My Cultural Report, Saturday, 4th of July, coming up, fireworks all around, as always. We will be welcoming celebration to the Golden Gate Bridge, which will be closed due to the launch of fireworks from the bridge. We will be celebrating the nation's 250th anniversary and looking forward to a safe, festive, and memorable night for all. Autism individuals, make sure you have your sensory-friendly devices with you and companions with you and all around you during this magical, sparkling evening of the 4th of July. And hope you have a lovely evening as well. Friday, July 24th will be Autism Acceptance Night with Will Clark and family once again. And proud to celebrate neurodiversity, promoting an understanding and creating a safe and inclusive environment for the autism community. Enjoy a heartwarming evening as the Giants take on the Los Angeles Angels. Special event tickets will benefit the autism community. July 24th, Friday, Autism Acceptance Night, and hope to see you there.
Folks, that's all for this edition of AASCEND TV, Life on the Autism Spectrum. Thank you for taking the time to listen to their discussion of this very serious topic, and we hope to see you next time. Until then, I'm Jennifer Brooks.
I'm Will Burnick.
I'm Stacey Kennedy.
I'm Sarah Eagle.
And until next time, stay well and stay safe.